Health and wellness are more than a destination. They are a process and a journey of personal choice. Come hear from people out in the field, doing the work, bringing health and wellness to many. Welcome, everybody. We're so happy to have Antonio Sangio, he has a long list of what he's done but of course he's a human being. But he's an instructor, a practitioner. He trained me in a wonderful, very powerful type of hypnosis called introspective hypnosis. He has written 4 books. He started this whole change in his career around 2013. And he even helps people with blockages or traumas from parallel lives, which some people say past lives. So you have done so much in the field to help the world kind of come to understand the power of the subconscious, true, and maybe the fact that we haven't just lived in one life, but that we also can be very fragile in the womb. You're an expert in that, also womb regression, and also the first 7 years, how vulnerable we are as human beings as we come with everything open and we have all these stories and maybe we can't understand them. That's what I think at that time. So I'm excited to hear all of the things you've been doing, Antonio, here. So tell us a little bit about, in your personal, words, how your story began.
First of all, Catherine, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be
Oh,
here, be able to share some of the information that I have.
well,
How is it that I started with this? I would always say that it's destiny, right? Something that I was supposed to do in this incarnation. I don't know if I have been doing it in a previous incarnation, but in my family, my mother very religious Catholic, and my father speaking about metaphysical topics. So I grew up hearing both worlds, right? My mom religion, my father metaphysics. And I remember my father, when I was close to my 20s, he read the book Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And he was talking about it. He was mentioning the concepts of reincarnation, even though I didn't like reading books back then. To me, it made sense when he mentioned reincarnation and what the concept was. I didn't pay attention to it until 2012. My mother-in-law passed away, and when my wife brought some of her books, among those books was again Many Lives, Many Masters. And I decided to read it. I read it in one day. After reading the books, I said, "This is what I want to do." Nowadays, it's gonna be videos on YouTube. So
oh,
that's how I found my first. Well, actually, it was my second teacher, but I found him first, Aurelio Mejia. And since then, it's been the journey of learning. I practice 4 modalities. I teach 2 of them, and it's been that way since 2013 that I learned.
so can you tell us what you would say it is, hypnosis? Because somebody who's listening might not have an idea what hypnosis is.
Yeah, well, and thank you for the question because there's a lot of misconception about this concept of hypnosis. Hypnosis is just an altered state of consciousness or an expanded state of awareness. Think of the time when you go to sleep at night. You go to bed, you close your eyes, and maybe you start remembering things, you get images or think about what you're going to do tomorrow, what you did today. And little by little, you start falling asleep. You go from being awake to being asleep. And in that space in between awaken and sleep, that is the trance, that is the expanded state of awareness. So in hypnosis, we're trying to we recreate that because once somebody gets into that state, we're able to access the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is like the hard drive of all the information from this life or from previous lives, and that's what we use in order to help them overcome some issues. But it's simple. We go in hypnosis or in a trance every day before we fall asleep and before we wake up. When you're in a movie, you know there are actors, you know there's a script. However, you cry, you laugh, you
Mhm.
were hypnotized. You're driving a car and then you said, "Oh my God, I was supposed to make a right turn a few blocks away. What happened? How come I ended up here?" You were focused on something else. That is hypnosis.
So it's kind of like going into this other altered state where you're not present really.
You're present, you're conscious all the time. You don't lose control. You're not at the mercy of the hypnotist. Just in an altered state of consciousness. It's like daydreaming, where you're focused on something, you're thinking about something else, and all of a sudden you forget about everything else around you. Or somebody says, "Hey, Kathleen, wake up! What are you thinking of?" Right? That's what it is. Paying special attention to something. In this case, to what we're saying to our client.
So I have a question. There's been a bit of a reluctance in mainstream medicine to understand the benefits of hypnosis and actually just, kind of adapt them in to the psychotherapy or psychiatry even. Can you address that?
If you check back in history, you'll hear about Anton Mesmer and Anton Mesmer and the magnetic passes and how people were going into. They didn't know they were not calling it hypnosis back then, but people were going into an altered state of consciousness, and he was getting results. And their colleagues in the field were saying did not agree with what he was doing, right? So yeah, I see a lot of resistance for people thinking about hypnosis because they think it's something. Some people think it's something like I don't know. It's not religion. Says no, that's not of God, or you're dealing with demons, or putting somebody in another state of consciousness. You're tapping into other dimensions, but it's none of that. If you think about it, since the time of in Egypt, the dream temples, Egyptians believed that they could, in a dream, in their sleep, they could get answers to the question and get healing. Of course, they were calling it dreams. They were in hypnosis. They were in a trance. Later, you had the shamans, right? The shamans will give them some beverage, and will put people into a trance. If you go to Peru, they give you ayahuasca, and then it puts you in an altered state of consciousness. Some people do mushrooms, but they're looking for the answers within. So understanding who we are as spirits, understanding that our spirit, our soul doesn't understand time, and the things that may be affecting us now might come from, yeah, we call them past lives, but for the spirit, life is only one with experiences in other bodies, right?
We have one soul with lots of experiences in different bodies.
Of course. So in the spirit's book, you find the answer given by spirit to the question, what is the spirit? The spirit is energy with intelligence, with consciousness, right? That habits the spirit world. To the question, what is the soul? Then the answer is an incarnated spirit. It is the same thing. By calling the spirit is out of the body, by calling it soul is an incarnated spirit in the body. But the spirit doesn't understand time. For the spirit, everything is happening now. And what we call past lives are really experiences in other bodies. So I could be incarnating here right now as I am, but I'm the accumulation of all the experiences that I have from other bodies, the positive and the negatives. Of course, the negative, the traumatic ones are the ones that are generating symptoms, right? And these symptoms in this current body that I have might not make sense. For example, let's say that I was, hanged in a past life, accused of being, I don't know, a witch, right? And in this body, I'm experiencing every time I stand in front of a crowd, I feel like I cannot breathe. I feel like I'm choking. I'm not able to speak. I get tense. That symptom is coming from that trauma, a trauma which is a pending event. The only way to access that information is by accessing the subconscious mind. And the only way to access the subconscious mind, in my opinion, right? I mean, people can use psychedelics, but we use it with hypnosis, is putting people in a trance using hypnosis. We access the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is like the hard drive. You have all the information there.
It's just recorded everything throughout time.
Right. So everything that is done with hypnosis, I would say, is faster and is more effective. Um, and there's in my opinion, the misconception that we're associating the conscious mind and the subconscious mind with the brain. We understand that we bring. Let me back up a little bit. Whenever we have a traumatic event, let's say when you were 5 years old, there was a huge black dog that wanted to bite you, you got traumatized. Doesn't matter how old you are now, every time you see a black dog, you're going to react the same way you reacted when you were 5. Because for your soul, this is still a pending event and it's happening now. The same thing happens in past lives. Um, you could be in traumas from a past life, right? And you feel the symptoms now because the trauma doesn't go with the body, the trauma goes with the soul. Traumas are stored at the subconscious level. So the way we see it in the type of hypnosis that I practice is that the subconscious mind goes with the soul. Think about it. Let's say that I was hanged in a past life. When I was hanged, my body died. If my body died, then the brain died. If my brain died, the subconscious mind should have died too. And with it, the trauma. I should not have any traumas now. And we find a lot of people with trauma from other lives, other bodies. So, as the spirits have taught us, and you can find information in the spirits book, for example, the subconscious mind goes with the soul. And using hypnosis, we're able to access the subconscious mind that has all the information that we need to help the people that come to us with issues, with blockages, with symptoms.
The thing is that, so I think it's really important because obviously everyone has different methods and different ways. And obviously, the world, just like medicine, is in a huge argument right now of the best ways. And
Mhm.
if you go to one doctor, they're going to tell you got to take a medicine to cure this. And then you go to another and they're going to like, you can cure it with your mind or you can cure it with with this remedy, this other alternative herbal remedy. So there's so many, right, we're in an information overload right now, and it
Yeah,
also with hypnosis. So I know from you, it's what the good, like we have to be careful a bit when we do hypnosis that we keep it client driven, that we don't get involved in their story, that we allow them sort of the freedom to explore without, because when you're in the hypnotic state, you're very suggestible. So it's very
that's
important. And also, by the way, we get this all the time, right? We are often suggested, like we're watching TV and we're in hypnosis. We're kind of programmed just by a commercial or something that we want
mhm,
something we don't want, right? That's
right.
like the proven thing, by the way. So, what do you like? One of the things you taught us is that when you're having somebody in hypnosis, you don't say too much. You just ask them what's happening. You don't say, "Oh, or do you see this?" Or you're careful with suggestions.
Correct. It depends on the type of technique. I learned it. I don't want to say the name, but the technique, the first technique that I learned, we were trained to ask a lot of questions about where the client was at that moment, if he was in a past life. The objective maybe for that technique is a different one, but for therapy, this is what we're doing. We're doing therapy on the soul. That is not important. Understanding what you were wearing, what's around you, look at the color of your skin, see if you have any ornaments, if you're wearing any ornaments on your head, on your arms. That is not important. What is important is what is happening, right?
Yeah,
And that we should allow the session to unfold by itself as much as possible. So we asking the simple questions, we're pushing our client to go through the experience. Our clients are the ones that should be doing most of the talking during the session. So the clients tell us what is happening, and based on that, we guide them. And it's true, it's important not to lead them, not to ask leading questions, because when they're in a trance, whatever we say, it becomes true for them. If you don't believe me, of course you believe me, but if people watching this don't believe me, go check stage hypnosis, right? Whatever the hypnotist say, it becomes true for them. They cannot speak, they cannot get up from the chair, they cannot move their hand from their head. But that's because they allowed it. They allow themselves to be volunteers for that. But it's important not to ask leading questions because we don't want to create things for our clients. Number one. Number two, and I think is the most important one, we cannot facilitate the sessions based on our belief system, based on our filters, because our filters, our belief system might not be the same as my client's filters, as my client's belief system. So I should allow my client to go through the session using their belief system and not interfere. That is what is going to help us. So, in other words, in order to help a person, I need to dive into their reality to help them. But they should be the ones navigating the session. We're just pushing, pushing, asking the questions.
that's very beautiful.
When we use our belief system to navigate a session, we're limiting our client's experience.
I want to know, like, can you give us an example of a hypnosis session that healed the soul trauma or healed the soul problem? Like where the person came to you with a problem and then they allowed you to do the hypnosis and you saw a significant, or they saw a significant change in their life.
Like this can happen at the physical, emotional, or mental level. Sometimes the healing doesn't take place immediately because the soul, the incarnated soul, needs to process what it got, what it remembered during the session. But of course, there were sessions where the change was immediate. I can tell you about my first solo session was in first solo introspective hypnosis session. A week after I had learned from Aurelio, this young woman was brought to me in my channel. That is session number 10, and she had three spirits attached to her, and she went through a lot of suffering because of her mother and the way she was treated. After the session, we helped those spirits go to the light. One of them had a message for her relative, her aunt. The other one wanted to ask for forgiveness for what this spirit had done to her when she was a little girl. And the other one just attached to her because she resonated with her problems in life, right? But once they went to the light and we worked on these traumatic events, I saw her like a month later and she was a different person. I didn't recognize her. She changed that much. And there's also testimony from her aunt. That's one. That's the first one that I remember. In classes, many of these things had happened. I remember teaching past life therapy, which is the other technique that I teach. The last day of module 2, um, this lady, Olivia, her name is Olivia, started in the class coughing like the whole class. She had not been feeling that way the day before. And I said, I've been feeling this way. I said, don't worry, we'll deal with it once we're close to the ending of the class. So once we did, she immediately went into a trance and she went to a life where she was a lady that used to work with plants to heal people. She was accused of being a witch. She was burnt alive. And she was being burnt alive. She was coughing, the smoke. She was complaining about the smoke. So once she relieved that event and once we worked on the trauma and we released all of that, the coughing disappeared immediately,
Yeah.
immediately. So there have been many cases where that took place. People that were thinking about committing suicide, for example, they were able to work on the traumas and their life changed completely. But it's not me, right? Some people say you heal me or you're a healer. I am not. I am a facilitator. I guide you, but you heal yourself.
Yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
there have been many sessions like that.
A teacher, Dr. Jose
Jose
Capu.
Luis Cabuli.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how he influenced you. And he talked about this kind of like hypnosis, surgery of the soul.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I started with Dolores Cannon first, QHST, right? Then I learned from Aurelio Mejia. I started working with stuff from this life, especially from this life, but also while following the symptoms, sometimes we ended up in past lives. And then I learned from the Newton Institute, Life Between Lives, and my last teacher, Jose Luis Cabuli, I learned what is called past life therapy, but it's not about past lives. We're basically following symptoms, physical, emotional, and mental symptoms, and we follow the symptom to the event that originated the symptom. That event that originated the symptom could have taken place a few days ago, a few years ago, during childhood, during the womb, in a past life, or even after the death of the body in a past life. He's the one that shared the concept of soul entrapment. When our soul visits a traumatic event is an event very painful that our soul is not able to process at three levels: physical, emotional, and mental. We get trapped in that event. Let me give you an example. I always give this example. Let's say that I had 3,000 years ago. I had a past life in Egypt, right? For my soul, it didn't happen 3,000 years ago. It just happened, right? And if I had a traumatic death, let's say I was buried alive,
Can you explain that? Because that's confusing. So we don't have really past. We have everything's in quantum physics happening now.
now,
So that
quantum
means it's
time.
parallel, like it's just happening, but you're in this body now, in this reality, but there are other realities that you've been, and they're disturbing your soul.
Correct. So I want you to think of a network at an office. You have the server, the main computer, and then you have the workstations, all of them connected to that computer through cables, right? If one of the workstations, one of the terminals gets infected with a virus, what is going to happen? As soon as it connects to the server, it is going to infect the server. And once any other computer connects to the server, it's also going to get infected. Now, replace the computers with what we call past lives and replace the server, the main computer, with the soul. Once something happened in a past life, a traumatic event, let's say that it infects the soul, and the soul infected goes to another life, let's say the current life. My soul is infected. Does it mean that I was born with that issue, with that symptom? No. The symptom is going to be triggered when I experience something similar. And then the virus is activated. And the therapists, we are the antivirus, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our soul, as I was saying, doesn't understand time. The life in Egypt, as I was saying, the life in Egypt, that took 3,000, played 3,000 years ago. For our soul, it's not 3,000 years ago. It just happened. And if I had a traumatic event, let's say I was buried alive, and as I was buried alive with my master, because I was a slave, my master passed away, and they buried me with him to take care of him after the afterlife. In the afterlife, I'm focusing on my son. Who's gonna take care of my son? This doesn't make sense. I don't want to die. Who's gonna take care of my wife? And from one moment to the other, my body dies. So the experience is interrupted by the death of the physical body. My soul was not able to process the death of the body properly because I was focused on something else. So at that moment, our soul gets trapped in that experience. So in that case, it's not that the life in Egypt, which took place 3,000 years ago, it just happened. For my soul, that experience is still happening because it is pending. Part of me is trapped in that experience that is pending. And
Oh,
what we do in past life therapy is we follow the symptom. Let's say that the symptom in this life is claustrophobia, right? Once we follow the symptom, we're going to arrive to the origin when that symptom originated, which was the life in Egypt. And the idea with this technique is to help us understand what happened on the physical, emotional, mental level and allow us to do or say whatever we were not able to do or say, right? Talk to my wife, talk to my kids, talk to my master, that this is stupid. Why are you killing me? Because you died. Now I'm going to die with you. That doesn't make sense. And then end the entrapment. For that technique, this is the concept. Since there's no time and everything is happening now, there's no past, present, and future. What we call past lives are here and now with us in the form of symptoms, in the way we make decisions, in the way we react to different things. There's no the
and the way
past.
we feel basically in certain situations. So I agree with you. Like there's things that we feel and experience in this life. And obviously, when you taught me, you said most of the time I just go to this life. I'm not really going to past lives. I certainly don't do that at the beginning, and I just go
Right.
to where the client wants me to go, like where it's
Correct.
obvious. But but most of the times it's just this life that you're healing. But a lot of times, sometimes this life can't be totally healed because it's connected
To
other
another event in another
parallel.
body.
Yeah, the parallel.
And this is why Dr. Kabuli says, right, that he describes past life therapy of making conscious what is unconscious.
Yeah.
I mean, the only conscious part of that issue is the symptom. The symptom is like the tip of the iceberg, just a small portion. If you follow that to under the surface, you will run into the event, the trauma. And it's not that we're looking for past life. Running into a past life is going to be the result of the therapeutic work. Let's put it that way. And since everything is happening here and now with us now, you don't need an induction. You don't need an induction. You don't need to go back in time and space. It is not a past life. It
Yeah,
is
we're
happening
learning,
now.
right? We're learning
Right.
that's not necessary as we once thought it was. So
Correct.
tell me a little bit more about this life. Like you, obviously, if we're very vulnerable in those first 7 years in the womb, birth, all those things that can happen to us when we're so open, all our chakras and
Mhm.
vulnerable. Um, Obviously you go there most often. And that is can have a lot of traumas for people. Um, can you give us some examples of that work you do, especially with this womb, you know, going back to the womb?
Right. So let's put it that way. The reason why I decided to learn other techniques is because I noticed that most of my clients were going to events in this life. It's not about just past lives. It's not about navigation of past lives. So that's how I learned from Aurelio and I learned from Dr. Kabuli how to deal with the event from this life. Now, speaking about reincarnation, right? We see this school, this planet as a school. We come here to learn. And there are two spirits teach us, and this information is shared in the Spirit's book, for example. The Spirit teaches that there are two tools for, I mean, the reason why we're reincarnated is to evolve as spirits, right? But there are two tools for spiritual evolution. Number one is reincarnation, and we cannot avoid it. We reincarnate over and over and over. That's number one. The second tool is suffering. We come here to suffer. We learn through suffering. The problem is going to be when we experience suffering with anger or being rebellious. Let me give an example. Let's think of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson training to become the world champion, right? He's getting up at 5 in the morning, he goes jogging. Then when it's time for him to get his breakfast, it's a diet. He might not like it. And then he needs to go to the gym and lift weight and then maybe start fighting and boxing. So his body is suffering, but he understands that that suffering is necessary for him to be the world champion, right? Try to do the same thing with somebody that is lazy and overweight. Get up in the morning. Get five is five. Get up. Let's go jogging. Oh, why? Why me? I don't want to run. My body hurts. Okay, here's your breakfast. No, I want pancakes. I don't want this. And now let's go to the gym. No, my body hurts. The difference is the understanding, right? If you know you want to be the world champion, you're gonna appreciate this training, this suffering that your body is going through in order to get to that level. The problem is that we're not aware that we're here to learn, to evolve, and we complain and we rebel. That's when suffering turns painful. So, speaking about suffering, we choose our mother, we choose our parents, we choose the body that we're going, when we're in the spirit world, we choose the body and the family that we're going to need according to what we need to learn. We're not with our parents and in that family by chance. Let's say that I need to experience limitation, and limitation could mean that I need to be born blind. So I need to choose to be born from a mother whose genes carries that issue that I'm going to be born blind.
That's a really good one because we know from Helen Keller, she was born with that and other, she was also deaf.
Right.
And she was, I think she had so many limitations, but she gained other things. Like when you read her story, she helped the world. She gained so much, I don't
Right.
know, wisdom from this experience. So by having these stories, we are not just having them, and I'm just repeating what you're saying. We're having them to learn, and the suffering's not for nothing. It's to help us gain perspective in
Correct.
this learning that we're.
Correct. And there are three types of incarnation. You have the lesson, you have the mission, and you have the expiation or the trials, right? So if you come with a mission, it's different. If you come to learn something or if you come to pay for something you have done, a lot of times due to the law of cause and effect, action and reaction, what we call karma, sometimes we're born in bodies that are going to have defect. Um, we're going to be born in families that where we're going to feel disconnected, where we're going to be abused physically and emotionally. But it's not that we're there by chance. There is a reason why we are as a family. The family is not a group of people joined by blood ties. Is a group of, again, this being said by spirits themselves, is a group of souls that need to be together with a pre-established evolution plan, pre-established lessons that we need to go through. We're together as a family because we need to help each other incarnate. But what happens is that families turn into battlefields
Yeah.
sometimes, and it's difficult, but it's part of the process, right? So it can start in the womb, as you said. A lot of people experience trauma in the womb. Soul trauma can happen in the womb. In the womb, for example, um, the spirit has its own history, its own defined personality or essence, missions, phobias, entrapment, all of these things. And the mother, the same thing. She has the same, right? But on top of that, the mother could be experiencing, I don't know, abandonment from the husband, abandonment from the family, or maybe she's going to be pregnant and then not married, and she's in a religion where that is not approved. Maybe it's not the same thing being a woman in the U.S. or Europe or in Africa when there's no food, or depending on you're in a tribe, right? So when we connect to that mother, when we connect to the embryo, to that, but to be in the womb, we run into all of that stuff, right? And the time in the womb is the realm of the subconscious mind. Everything that takes place in the womb takes place at the subconscious mind. And because we're inside of our mother's vibrational field, we are connected to her. Telepathy, right? We can feel what she feels, we can think what she thinks. And the problem is that we're not able to differentiate what belongs to the mother and what belongs to us. We experience everything as if it belonged to us. When we're born, we forget about it, but we were already programmed. We start experiencing in our lives the emotions that belong to our mother. We start making decisions in the womb. What if the mother says or thinks this baby's a mistake, is going to ruin my life?
In that case, like if the mother had felt abandoned, let's say, then
Mhm.
then the baby, once they're born and they start living, they could be triggered with this abandonment problem.
Well, what has happened is that, for example, once the husband or once the parent, the grandparents in this case, learned that the mother was pregnant, they abandoned her.
Yeah,
So what is the spirit in the womb feeling or thinking?
abandonment.
Because of me, my mother is going through this. It is my fault. So whenever I am born, I'm going to do whatever is possible to make it up to her. I'm going to
Okay.
be whatever it takes to make her happy. Then I'm born, and then I have this pleasing attitude, always concerned about my mom, always trying to make her happy, always worrying about her, even forgetting about my own family, right? And that's because of a decision that we made in the womb. We're programmed by stuff that happens in the womb, but it doesn't happen by chance. That is also meant to happen.
These are also lessons, like you would say, like
Right.
spiritual lessons.
For example, I was recording one interview, one sample interview that I'm including in one of the courses. And so this young woman tells me that while her mother was pregnant, her father abandoned her, right? And just making an exercise because it was not a session. And how was your mother feeling when she was abandoned? Well, abandoned and stressed, and she mentioned a few other things. And I said, how do you think that made you feel? Not important. My mother was focused on her own feelings, not on me. I felt abandoned. I felt alone, right? So think of all these possible things that people can go through during their time in the womb. And then the birth. Birth is the first survival experience.
I used to work in labor and delivery, so it can be very,
It's traumatic, and it can trigger memories from past lives. So if you're born with the cord wrapped around your neck, it can trigger memories from where you were hanged, for example. Or you were born with forceps. It can trigger memories from a life where maybe you were tortured. I remember being in a class in the Netherlands. This young woman went back to the womb and she said, "Oh no, not again. I cannot do this again." And I didn't know what she was talking about. When we went back to understand what happened is in the previous life, she was handicapped. She had to be stuck in a wheelchair her whole life. And when she was in the womb, she felt the same way. She was stuck. She was not able to move. And that is why she said, "Not again. I don't want to do this again." It triggers memories from other lives.
yeah, Antonio, because when I had my daughter, just to share when I share this in the book that I wrote, but she had an issue. She was constantly like not grounded, and she had no limits actually. She it turns out when I took her to the kinesiologist, she never really incarnated. She never really accepted the body because
Okay.
of me being in the this is so crazy. Me being in the when I was pregnant with her, I had
Hmm.
a very serious automobile accident. And when
Oh.
that happened, she just said, "Well, this is terrible. I'm out of here. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to trust this body because this is too scary. And so her first 10 years were all these accidents. She was constant. It was like, it was wild. But this kinesiologist did the same, did her way of finding out, asked the subconscious, and took us back to the womb. So that accident. So I knew it was real because I didn't tell her about the accident. And she just, through her methods, found that this accident
Interesting.
was blocking up. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah, we have the concept, for example, of soul fragmentation in these painful events, traumatic events. Sometimes part of our soul fragments and leaves, right? Maybe this is what happened maybe this could have happened to you when you had the accident, but also with her.
Yeah.
So you're born and your soul is fragmented.
You're
And the
not
symptom is
grounded.
you're not fully
Yeah.
present, right?
Yeah.
You're not fully present, you cannot think straight. There are many symptoms that soul entrapment can cause.
Yeah. So that's also how you help people because
Right.
sometimes they've been, in very difficult situations, maybe abused. I mean, we know all these things happen, maybe sexually abused, physically abused, verbally abused, not accepted by their parents because their parents had their limitations. And so
Right.
that's a lot of your work too.
I focus on stuff from this life because the problem is here and now, right?
Yeah.
And here when they are experiencing the symptoms. But as I was saying, sometimes as we follow the symptoms to the event or to the moment they started, you go back to what we call past lives.
Yeah.
And
So
and
it's like a
and
natural. Yeah.
it's natural. And most of the time, using the technique that I practice, most of the time when they go to a past life is to the moment of death.
Yeah.
Most of the symptoms that we're experiencing now that might have no that don't not make sense, right? When you go to the doctor says you're fine, you don't have any issues. No, but I feel this pain here in my neck. Maybe that is associated to a past life where you were maybe decapitated or you were hanged
Or
or
you
when
just had
you
an accident, like you could just die in an
right,
accident, right? Or get in a
right.
fight. In those days they had wars.
You see the history of humanity,
Yeah.
people that were tortured, people that were sacrificed, people that were abused and raped, women that they were treated like objects, right?
Yeah.
Um, and of course, these manifest in this life in different ways. We call them symptoms, right?
But I was just wondering like we've talked about some symptoms like feeling stuck. Most of the symptoms are that something's not working in your life.
I can share, for example, what happens in classes, right? And I practice hypnosis and I'm teaching hypnosis, and I'm sure that in a past life, I have done something. I don't know hypnosis, but I have been helping in healing, I guess. And as some spirits told me, I have been also teaching. Who knows? Um, but back then, whenever people learn that you were doing that stuff, they will call you a witch and they will hang you or burn you alive, right? So you come back and you still have this in your soul. You want to help people, you want to learn the technique, you want to, I don't know, do it with Reiki, do it with hypnosis, or being a medium, right? But you feel this blockage because when you were dying in that life, you thought, I will never, or you thought maybe using my hands to heal can kill me, or telling people that I see spirits can kill me. And that is like a mandate, that is like a program that keeps running. So in this life, you might have the same gift of mediumship, or you want to learn with help with hypnosis or help healing with your hands, but there is a blockage at the subconscious level. This can get me killed. So people are afraid to practice. And when we do practice sessions in the classes, a few times people went to those lives. We were not looking for them. Went to those lives where they were hanged, they were burnt alive, and they were sacrificed because they were healing people. They were using plants, or they were using their hands, or they could see spirits. And that's the blockage that they feel now, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
running
this
at the
is very
subconscious.
powerful. But
Yeah, and there's
let
more
me,
more than that. You have promises, vows. You
yeah.
make a promise in a past life, but who's making the promise? Not the body, it's the soul.
Yeah, so you
So
make
so
this promise like I'm gonna never like okay, religion, that's a huge one, right? Religion programs us too. So we might have made a some kind of commitment that we will be poor forever. I'm just giving an
well,
example.
no. It's a perfect example because I had clients that were priests in past life or nuns.
Yeah.
And priest makes what? Vows. Vows of what?
All right.
chastity and poverty, right? And this is active now. People saying, every time I'm about to make money, something happens and I lose it. There's this program running in your mind that yeah, I'm not supposed to have anything material, right? The vows are still present. Promises of love. Had a client that during the interview, she told me I was about to commit a few times and I ended the relationship. So you ended the relationship? Yes, I don't know why. When she went back to or looking for that the beginning of the origin of that pattern, she went back to a past life where she fell in love with a soldier and she said to him, I will be waiting for you forever. That was a promise. And the soldier never came back in that life, and the soldier was not present in this life either. But in a way, every time she was about to commit, she felt that she was breaking the promise. So
That-
she ended the relationship. Unconsciously, she didn't know where this was coming from.
That's
So
interesting.
all of these things, under, what creates the issue for us, I think, is that our spirit doesn't understand time.
Right. And often, Antonio, our thought processes are the problem. Our ways of thinking are negative, right? They're all day long, people are focusing on what they don't want based on what's in their
Right.
subconscious, and they're getting constantly the life they don't want. So, in order to get the life you do want, you have to clear this blockage
Correct.
and even simple things like I was in like grade, like 7 or 8 years old, and I didn't get any attention, so I started looking at ways I could get attention because I didn't feel loved. I mean, it doesn't have to be always from some other life. It
Right.
can be literally from this life. You
Right.
did not feel that you got attention, you didn't feel love, and then your pattern for the
Right.
rest of your life
Th-
be
Right. We need to go on a journey within to heal all the things that we have inside. The problem is that our ego has escape mechanisms, and in order to avoid this thing that we have to face, we blame other people. We look for logical explanations, but there's no logical explanation. Um, and we try to escape from that lesson. We need
yeah.
to embrace the lesson. Some people try to block it, like pretend it's not there. It's there, and we need to face it. Otherwise, it's gonna keep coming because it's an unresolved issue that is with your soul.
I think it's so beautiful. And I do agree with you because I've worked for many years helping people heal that forgiveness of yourself is one of the
Absolutely
most hard things to do. And if you're not aware that you didn't forgive yourself for
right.
something, like I know you and I have like experienced going with one of mine, and I enjoyed learning that because it explained when my mother, I just share this, but my mother was in the womb, she was a smoker. And I had totally forgotten about the smoking thing. Of course you don't think about it when you're an adult, right?
Okay.
But I
Hmm.
have lung problems. I was having lung problems and a lot of coughing. And I realized it was a direct connection to being in the womb with her smoking and the not being able to
Yeah.
breathe. And then in a past life, I was in a fire, not able to breathe, and I didn't forgive myself for the loss of that home and the
Right.
children. So and now I feel free and my lungs it's like really interesting how it's all connected. I'm just able
It's
to
good.
breathe
Yeah.
a lot. But I didn't have it
Sometimes.
my whole life. It just came up to be cleared.
Yeah.
It's like
It's good.
I can explain it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we feel guilty for what happened in past lives, right? Our physical body dies in a past life, and we feel guilty for what we have done. Or some women saying, they say some a woman lost her daughter in a market, never found her again. And after the death of the body, she says, "I don't deserve to be a mother." You
Yeah.
know, and how does this reflect in this life? Having a lot of miscarriages, for example. There's some program running at the subconscious level. I'm not a good mother, or don't deserve to be a mother, and that's the guilt that we carry. And it's important to, yes, forgive others for what they might have done to us, but we also need to forgive ourselves, which is really powerful.
Yeah, and for those that are listening, they're like, "Oh my God, this is so beyond me." Just one of the things I want to say is the subconscious, we create our reality from our subconscious. Those recordings are bringing to us we're creating our reality all the time. So if in the subconscious there's these blockages or negative thoughts or negative
Right.
emotions, or traumas, or then our life is going to keep bringing that to be cleared. Like ultimately, we want to get beyond that, right, Antonio? We don't want
Correct.
to carry that forever. So
Correct.
it's beautiful this kind of introspective. I love how it's called introspective because you look within. You yourself
Right.
want to clear these blockages to be free in a way. True?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. And
beautiful.
that is what's so important in a session. Number one, the person recognizes okay, I have an issue and I need help, right? And that's when everything works because if somebody comes because somebody told them it will be beneficial for you to have a session, they might not be interested in having a session.
Yeah,
It's like when somebody is alcoholic, the first step for healing is admit and accept that you're alcoholic and that you need help, and then we can move forward.
yeah. But if they don't,
If
there's
they
no,
don't,
yeah.
right?
That's why it has to be client driven. So I can you talk a little bit, like we're coming to the end here, but I know I want to ask one question for I
Sure.
just curious. You have a background in computer science. How did those skills help you to understand the
Oh, a
subconscious?
lot, a
Yeah?
lot. I just gave you the example, right, of the soul and all the lives happening at the same time, using, for example, the server, the main computer,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
true.
the workstations, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I used to. I'm a systems engineer. That's what I studied. I was doing that full time until the end of 2018. I'm troubleshooting. I'm following in the network, finding where the issue is, where this virus is coming from.
Yeah.
What
And this
what
like
cable is or what computer is sending this wrong signal that is affecting the server? So it has allowed me to think in a structured way. It for my sessions, for when I write the books, and for my classes. Whenever I come out with a course, how I structure everything, it has to be a structure, it has to be a flow, it needs to be a sequence. So it trained my brain for that. And I don't know, maybe I think I might have ADHD, right? And maybe I was not diagnosed with it when I was a kid because nobody was talking about that back then. But one of the things that as an ADHD person is you cannot sit still for too long. You have
yeah.
to be doing something.
I have it too, so I understand.
For computers, it was working in my benefit because I was able to troubleshoot. I was working with a client troubleshooting by being on the phone and checking something else. I was able to do many things at the same time. To me, that was natural, right? Same thing happens in sessions. I'm paying attention to my client. I understanding what I have to say, but I'm also paying attention to what else is taking place in a session. Many things take place in a session. Because if we could see with X-ray vision what's happening in a session, you will see light beings there helping us, and that's why sometimes they send us thoughts, and we start saying things that I don't know why I'm saying them, or there are words that come to my mind when I'm working with a client that, of course, at the beginning I was saying I don't know why this is coming to my mind, but then I understood we're being assisted, right? So I'm
Yeah.
able to do all of that at the same time. It
But
helped
I
me.
think that's what I think we do. We have a lot of, we put ADHD, by the way, on a lot of things. But I think people who have ADHD in general can multidimensionally think. And
Right.
that's a new way of thinking, which is not understood, Antonio. So I kind of look at it a little bit differently, not as it is impediment, but as an advantage,
It's an
a
advantage. For
way
me,
of
it's an
thinking.
advantage.
Yeah. So, but let's tell me a little bit about your books because you wrote four of them. So,
Sure. The first one is My Soul's Purpose. I wrote a book sharing a little bit about my journey by sharing concepts of spirituality and cases. The second one, Guiding Lost Souls. At the beginning, when I was teaching, I started teaching introspective hypnosis. I couldn't find a good book that would show how to help lost souls, spirits attached to our clients, from the frequency of love and compassion, right? And I was recommending a book. I'm not going to say which one it was, but I was telling people, but don't read this part. This is a good book, but this chapter I don't agree with, and we don't work that way. And right, you ask Adam and Eve, right? You tell them not to do something, they do it.
yeah.
So that's the first thing they were talking about demons in the sessions and spirits that were evil, and there's none of that. So then I thought I have to write a book on how to help spirits from the frequency of love and compassion, how to do therapy on them. So that's how Guiding Lost Souls came to life.
Beautiful.
Then the symptoms of the soul. This is more focused like on past life therapy, where we bring symptoms from not only from past life. We can bring symptoms from this life, rape, molestation in this life, birth, the time in the womb, a past life. I talk about the concept of soul entrapment, and I share a lot of cases. In all my books, I share a lot of cases. Then I had the soul in the womb. And the soul in the womb, when I started writing the book, I thought about writing the book for practitioners, therapists, to understand what happened in the womb. But then I thought, no, I mean, pregnant women should know what happens in the womb, or people that, or women that, or people saying, I'm getting ready to be a father, I'm getting ready to be a mother. What does it mean to be ready? For some people, it's having a career, having a house, having money, but they don't think about working on their traumas, because everything the mother experiences, everything the father says is going to affect that baby in the womb, the soul in the womb. So I wrote that book for that, The Soul in the Womb,
So
the four
beautiful.
books.
Thank you, Antonio. Tell me about the courses. Now you have courses for people.
Courses, yes, thank you. I teach introspective hypnosis in three ways now. And this is new because I have not even released it yet. So number one, we have the live classes, and I normally do this in person live classes with my friend and colleague Alba Wyman. We do it once a year in the US and once a year here in Europe, in the Netherlands, right? Then I also teach online, live online, 6 days. But recently, what I'm about to release today is hybrid. So it's going to be online on demand. So everything is pre-recorded and you have all the material and everything. Because I understand that not everybody is able to take 6 days off to attend a course. Not everybody is able to travel to where the classes are going to take place in case they want to go into an in-person class. So now you can learn by watching this recorded class. But the condition is that in order to get a certification, we still need to meet for 2 days, two classes, where we're going to review the material. We're going to
Yeah.
practice interviews, practice inductions, navigating past lives, and sessions, right? So it's in hybrid mode. That's going to start today. I have not released it, so this is new.
Well, that's so exciting. And I think you're right. It's the way of the future. So
And I also teach past life therapy. People that took introspective hypnosis and then took past life therapy, they consider it more advanced. It is a technique where we don't use inductions. However, people go into a trance, and we work specialize in traumas. Very powerful technique is like laser surgery, and I teach that online, basically, live online in two modules. The first module is 6 days, and the second module is 5 days.
thank you, Antonio. This is wonderful. I want to thank you for your work and your service to the world and humanity because this is important. You're doing pioneering work, in my opinion. It will be eventually understood, this work, I'm sure, in the world. And I know with my type of healing too, it's very hard to explain it all, how you do it and how you can help people with energy. I know the physical, I've got that down, but the energy is hard for people to understand. But I think the world's getting more ready. So I
Right.
thank you so much for being
No,
here.
thank you, Kathleen, for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. And good luck with your work.